I feel the sunrise, it burns in my eyes. This is my own life, I gotta get mine. My heroes don't fly, they crawl up inside.
Hi, this is Jamie with HardRockChick, and I'm here with Dominguez of Kidneythieves. How are you today?
I'm great.
So we're in Free's house right now in LA, and we're just going to talk a little bit about your background and what you're working on right now.
Okay.
So why don't we start out with how you got your musical start? Take me back to when you first realized that you wanted music to be your life.
I think it had been throughout my life, ever since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
I had a tiny piano and would play things by ear and write little songs on pieces of graph paper.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just a love in my life throughout. And then when I moved to Los Angeles,
Where did you grow up?
Houston.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, I started meeting other musicians and who encouraged me to keep writing and keep expressing myself. And it just kept leading down the road to meeting people who wanted to do more. And that's how I met Bruce, and that's how we started Kidneythieves. We actually started writing songs for other people, for Mark Isham, this film composer,
Mm-hmm.
for television. And one day we just got kind of sick of writing songs for other people. And he asked me, he said, well, do you want to do our own stuff? And I looked at him and I said, oh, like a band? And he said, yeah. And I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. My instant feeling was getting up there in front of people, who would care what I sang, So, but then I went home and I thought about it and I rolled up my sleeves and just went for it. I felt like, well, if it's a fear, I need to face it and we'll see what happens.
So you started pretty much in the late 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The music industry was very different back then.
Oh, they were giving away record deals left and right.
Right. So compared to how it is now, how do you think that's affected you as an artist, from the 90s to when you took a break in the
Mm-hmm.
mid-2000s to now, getting back into it?
I don't think that it's affected me as an artist at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it has affected the way that we are able to earn a living, for sure. Everything changed when the ability to download music for free happened. And there are so many arguments online that, oh, it's better, oh, it's worse. But I can tell you for, people that make records, it's been challenging.
Sure.
But since, like I said, it hasn't changed the fact that we're artists, we just try to figure out ways around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely more difficult, but still worth it nonetheless, especially when I get emails from people that touch my heart, that inspire me to keep going. So.
Mm-hmm. And you have a pretty strong social media presence. How do you feel about different methods that you use to keep in touch with fans, like what you just mentioned?
I think that the only thing that kept me from being, the only thing that kept me from being afraid to do it was the fact that I could connect with people. Mm-hmm. Because when it boiled down to, it took me out of the equation and it became about them.
Sure.
And that inspires me. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's all social media does. I mean, I wouldn't do it because I had to. If it made me uncomfortable, I wouldn't do it. But the fact that it just gives me another way to share with people, then that makes me happy. I get to hear what people have to say and how they feel, and
mm-hmm.
Everybody basically should just be helping each other. So.
Right. So you mentioned that you are inspired by Jung. Can you tell me a little bit about what
mm-hmm.
you think about it and how it affects your music?
Well, my stepmother is a very well-respected Jungian therapist. So I don't know which came first, if I was perusing in a bookstore and found some books on Jung, or if she talked about it, but it just really hit me, the whole, your dreams, your unconscious, your sleeping life, your waking life, and how that affects how you walk through life. And I really started to, it just became very interesting to me, all kinds of symbols that we're all related, from culture to religion to dreams, and including science. And so I just delved in and I became my own guinea pig. And I thought, well, if there is self-individuation through, dissecting this, then maybe there's something to it in art and creation, which also perpetuates
Absolutely.
everything. I mean, a song goes out there, someone listens to it and they have a feeling, and it changes their mood. I might write something that changes my feeling and changes my path, and so it all becomes sort of the same thing. I really believe what he has to say about most things. So it's just fun for me. It's a hobby, and it fuels my creativity. So
Could you maybe select one of your songs that you can tell the story about how maybe it came from a dream and manifested itself into a song?
I think a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, obviously relationships with people do as well.
Sure.
But Serene Dream is a perfect example. It's off of Zero Space. And it was still when I think about it to this day, it was such a vivid dream. I swear I was there.
Mm.
And then I went to the studio and I just said, Bruce, we have to do this. We have to do this song. And it was completely different than any other song on the album. But I write a lot of different things that are like phrases or things that I feel or dream about, and sometimes they all get mixed and matched and put into a song. So it's rarely linear.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Then how about maybe hearing from fans who, you had an intention or an idea in one song and then they maybe take it in a different way or
I love
a
it.
similar way? Yeah.
I love it because it's not about what I think the song should be.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, there's a cat.
What's the kitty's name?
Nico.
Nico.
Mm-hmm. So back to your question. When people say, even if they think a lyric is something different, I never, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what someone feels when they look at a piece of art, it's no different than when you go to a museum and you look at a painting. Mm-hmm. People see it in so many different ways and have so many different feelings that just the fact that anyone's listening, I'm totally happy about it. So,
well, speaking of paintings,
Mm-hmm.
You were showing me earlier, if you could share some of your stories behind the painting from your aunt?
My Cuban great aunt, actually. My Cuban side of the family.
Do you have the painting?
Yeah.
We could show.
So my Cuban side of the family, from Cuba, I'm the first born American from my father's family on that side. They were business owners, humanitarians, artists. I had many musicians in my family. My aunt Elvira, my great aunt Elvira, was an opera singer. She actually sang with Ernesto Lecuona, and she was an artist until the day she died. I think she passed at 96. And in 2000, I think she was maybe 92, she painted me this painting for my birthday. She loved fine art, she loved the classics, and she would paint scenes that she remembered from Cuba. And she would do it with one hair of a paintbrush at 90. So this is probably one of my most cherished pieces of art, for sure. And the fact that, she was such a stickler for the arts, the fine arts, and knowing that I did more modern music, when we sat down and I sang for her and she started showing me opera songs, it really made me feel like I connected with her and that she accepted, what I did. And I felt like we were keeping the creative tradition going. So I think of her often.
It's beautiful. And then this other painting, do you mind if we talk about that one?
Sure.
Okay.
So this painting, my father's side of the family and my stepmother that I told you about, they collect an LA artist, Serena Rosenfeld. And she had a gypsy upbringing. So in Europe, I think it was in Europe. Why would it be in America? Gypsies in America?
I don't know.
But I'm pretty sure she grew up in Europe when she was younger. And they took me to get my first painting of hers. And she told me to walk around and see which one spoke to me. And it was very easy. This one just shot out. And I said, I want this one. And she said, well, it was the only painting I painted on 9/11. And she said, I wasn't just going to give it to anyone, but I'll give it to you. So it's another piece of art that, I connect with, as I think a lot of people think about that day and have very strong emotions about it. So
Absolutely.
I actually wrote a song on my solo record called That Day that's just instrumental that sort of has that feeling of it. But, so that's another piece of art that means something to me.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So switching gears a little bit, being a female in the rock genre, there's been a lot of talk lately with Revolver does those hottest chicks in rock and hottest chicks in metal and things like that. Like, how do you feel about that kind of thing and, being a woman and still is kind of a male-dominated genre? How has that affected you?
I don't judge how people want to express themselves. If my thing is that if you're living your creativity and you work really hard at your art, I don't think there's anything wrong with being in an issue of the hottest chicks. I mean, they have hot guys. They have all. I do think that it's not all about looks for sure. And so it is hard as a woman. But I just think it's hard for anyone. It really takes a strong commitment to be a musician. And I think that definitely as women we should support each other. I have a very close-knit group of friends from Lucia from KMFDM, Juliet from 8mm, Anna LaChantaine, the cellist. We really, really support each other. And I think, that's the way it should be.
Definitely. So let's move to what you're working on right now. You just came out with some solo material. Correct? Can you talk about that for a little bit?
So I write constantly. And not all of the things that I do are Kidneythieves based. I really love to collaborate with electronic artists. That's a lot of fun for me. But then I realized I had all these tiny songs that just didn't require a lot of production. I really wanted to express myself. I'm very inspired by Patty Griffin, her Living with Ghosts record. I don't know if you noticed. It came out a long time ago, but it's a very powerful raw record. PJ Harvey, when she does these very simple raw songs. Even Nico from Velvet Underground. I could go on. So I wanted a place to put that. And so I just thought, well, I don't have much. I'm just going to put these songs out. And I felt like I'm going to challenge myself. If I can write a song with nothing and people like it, then cool. I've found an outlet and that's what I'll use that space for. So I did it. I sold out of them and I hadn't reprinted them. And I was asked to do that by a lot of people, so I decided to do it, but I wanted to give it a fresh thing. So Static, the guitarist from the band Hours, we write a lot together, and I had this idea of an a cappella song that sort of sounded like something that could have been an Appalachian hymn. And then he heard it and he thought, well, let's make it modern and dark and add some crazy things to it. Almost sounds like something that could be in True Blood. Okay. So we put that on there. It's a track called Darkest Rivers. And so I re-released this solo album called Unearthed, digging all the songs up and putting them back out there. That led to where we recorded, or we wrote 12 songs. So we're going to put them out in a couple months. And then Kidney Thieves, we're about a third of the way done with the new album, to be done by summer. I'm actually going there after I talk to you.
Oh.
So it's Bruce and I are really, really enjoying where the direction is going with this new album. I think I don't want to give anything away yet, but we're very, very excited about the direction.
Great.
So.
And are there touring plans for when that comes out this summer?
We're really, really, as we talked about earlier, it's very hard to do that sort of thing, and we are really, really trying to figure out a way how to do it. We miss playing live, we miss touring, so we'll just have to see what happens.
Great.
So.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about that's coming up for you?
I'm going to the East Coast this week. Going to do some shows opening for Jimmy Necco of the band Hours. He's a dear friend, and as I think a lot of people know, probably one of the best singers you'll ever hear. So I'm excited to do a week's worth of shows with him, and maybe even sing with him a little bit. So
Great. That's exciting.
and the shows are on my website if anyone's interested in coming.
And what's your website?
freedominguez.com and kidneythieves.com. So we're going to give Kidney Thieves a fresh update soon and let everyone know about the album.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and letting us stop by and
Thank
talk.
you. Thanks.